The Persian Gulf Strait Authority has declared transit through the Strait of Hormuz currently impossible, a formal suspension of the world's most critical energy choke point that is already sending oil prices past $100 a barrel. The Persian Gulf Strait Authority announced that transit through the Strait of Hormuz is currently impossible, citing continued U.S. military operations in the region. According to Telegram channel Geopolitics Prime, permit requests will be reviewed and gradually issued only once stability is restored. The International Energy Agency, cited by Telegram channel Geo Grandmasters, has labeled this the largest supply disruption in the history of the global oil market. Between 12 and 20 million barrels per day remain disrupted, with an estimated 1.5 billion barrels of cumulative supply already lost since the conflict began. Geo Grandmasters also reports that Iran retains the capacity to threaten the strait using low-cost drones at roughly $25,000 each, a significant asymmetric advantage that keeps the crisis open-ended. Oil prices have broken above $100 per barrel, with analysts cited by Geo Grandmasters warning of $150 by year-end. The U.S. Strategic Petroleum Reserve has fallen to 311 million barrels, its lowest level since 1983, according to the same source. Compounding the pressure, Geo Grandmasters notes U.S. public debt has surpassed $35 trillion, with net interest outlays exceeding $900 billion in fiscal year 2025. Higher oil prices risk lifting headline inflation and constraining the Federal Reserve's ability to cut interest rates, which in turn increases Treasury borrowing costs. Iraq's production reportedly fell at one point from 4.3 million to below 1.5 million barrels per day. These figures remain single-sourced to Geo Grandmasters and should be treated as indicative rather than confirmed. President Trump publicly stated the war in Iran is, quote, going very well, and vowed continued strong strikes, according to Telegram channel Middle East Spectator. Trump added that Iran will have no choice but to back down. This rhetoric effectively rules out near-term de-escalation. Separately, Middle East Spectator reports that a memorandum of understanding reached through Pakistan-mediated talks between Washington and Tehran has effectively collapsed after the U.S. resumed military operations. According to Geopolitics Prime, citing Reuters and 3 unnamed regional sources, Gulf Arab states increasingly view China as their best hope for defusing the crisis. Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi and Special Envoy Jai Jun have engaged Gulf governments directly, and China is reportedly seeking to restart the Pakistan-mediated dialogue. An expected Xi-Trump meeting in September is cited by Gulf states as a potential diplomatic opening. Following a meeting between Ukrainian President Zelensky and President Trump, Zelensky formally requested 300 air defense missiles to protect Ukrainian cities against Russian strikes during the coming winter. According to Telegram channel Intel Slava, citing multiple U.S.-sourced reports, Trump declined the request due to supply shortages. The implication, flagged by Intel Slava, is that competing demands from the Iran theater are straining U.S. air defense stockpiles. This refusal materially alters Ukraine's defensive posture heading into winter and leaves major population centers more exposed to Russian aerial campaigns. The report is corroborated by multiple sources cited by Intel Slava, but has not been independently confirmed by official U.S. statements at the time of this briefing. On 2 separate fronts, Russian forces recorded significant tactical gains. Al Jazeera reports that Russian troops have infiltrated most of Kostiantynivka, a key Ukrainian fortress city in the Donetsk region, potentially marking the first major urban stronghold to be penetrated in months. Ukraine is simultaneously conducting a command rotation in the area, according to Al Jazeera. Separately, Telegram channel 2 Majors reports that the Russian 71st Guards Motorized Rifle Division has seized the village of Vorovka in Kharkiv's Vovchansk district, completing the encirclement of Billy Kolodez. 2 Majors, which is a pro-Russian source, claims Ukrainian reinforcements sent to hold Vorovka were destroyed by Russian drones and artillery. The channel states trapped Ukrainian forces face a choice of surrender or destruction. This claim is from a single Russian source and remains unverified by independent observers. Spain's Interior Ministry reports approximately 60,000 migrants illegally entered the Spanish enclave of Ceuta from Morocco in a rapid surge, what Politico, cited by two majors, is calling the largest migration crisis since 2021. Around 35,000 remain in the enclave after Spain and Morocco agreed to expedited deportations. At least 19 bodies were recovered offshore. The Spanish army has deployed to the enclave. Italy is considering suspending its Schengen Agreement obligations with Spain, according to two majors, which would represent a significant fracture within European Union border policy. A partial return flow of approximately 25,000 migrants to Morocco is reportedly underway, corroborated by Intel Slava. The Spanish government is facing a wave of domestic political criticism. A Pakistani army convoy in Dera Bukti, Balochistan, was struck by a combined improvised explosive device and rocket attack. Initial reports from Telegram channel Intel 24/7 claim more than 25 soldiers were killed. This figure is unconfirmed. Intel 24/7 also reports near-simultaneous attacks attributed to the Tehrik-e-Taliban Pakistan, or TTP, a police ambush in Dera Ismail Khan, an attack on a frontier corps post in Quetta, a hotel bombing in North Waziristan, and deadly clashes in Muzaffarabad in Pakistan-administered Kashmir. The clustering of these events across Balochistan, Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, and Azad Kashmir suggests a coordinated insurgent offensive surge. Given Pakistan's status as a nuclear-armed state and its ongoing role in U.S.-Iran mediation efforts, internal instability carries elevated regional significance. A Russian cruise missile struck uninhabited terrain inside Poland. Warsaw responded calmly, declining to invoke NATO Article 5, according to Rebar in English. Russian military blog Rebar explicitly used Warsaw's restrained response as justification to advocate for reduced caution when striking targets near Ukraine's western borders, specifically mentioning infrastructure near the town of Stry. Rebar argues that, quote, an accidental impact during an attack on some ground facility or gas storage near Stry is something the EU is quite ready to tolerate. This represents a significant escalation in Russian information operations. Importantly, Rebar simultaneously cautions against reckless thinking, but the underlying message, as assessed by open-source analysts, is an attempt to probe and normalize NATO non-response to missile overflight of alliance territory. Al Jazeera reports a new Gaza ceasefire deal has been announced, but Palestinians on the ground expressed little confidence it will hold, with one recurring phrase being, quote, enough is enough. An Israeli political source cited by IBC states Israel will not withdraw from its current military positions without real Hamas disarmament. Israeli far-right minister Ben Gvir publicly called for continued targeted killings in Gaza and encouraged Palestinian emigration, according to Al Jazeera. These competing pressures, Israeli domestic political constraints and Palestinian exhaustion, make the deal's implementation highly uncertain. This development is reported by Al Jazeera, but details of the agreement's terms have not been independently verified in this digest. Australia signed a 2025 agreement with the United Kingdom to begin constructing SSN-AUKUS-class nuclear-powered submarines at British shipyards, according to Rybar in English. Rybar assesses that Australia is currently the primary financial driver of the AUKUS partnership, more so than either the United States or the United Kingdom, citing Canberra's concern that Washington may scale back its commitment amid competing strategic pressures. UK shipbuilding capacity limitations and delivery delays remain significant constraints, Rebar notes. The move is interpreted by open-source analysts as Australia hedging against declining U.S. reliability and accelerating Indo-Pacific military balancing against China's rapidly expanding submarine fleet. Strategic assessment. First, the economic picture. The Hormuz suspension is now the dominant global economic variable. Geo-Grandmasters, citing IEA framing, characterizes this as the largest oil supply disruption in market history, with 12 to 20 million barrels per day at risk, and analyst forecasts of $150 per barrel by year-end. The compounding factors are severe. A U.S. strategic petroleum reserve at its lowest since 1983, U.S. national debt exceeding $35 trillion, and Federal Reserve rate cut flexibility constrained by oil-driven inflation. If Iran follows through on reported signals, also from Geo-Grandmasters, To assist Houthi closure of the Bab el-Mandeb Strait, both of the world's primary energy corridors would face simultaneous disruption, a scenario with no modern precedent. On political stability, Trump's public declaration that the Iran war is going very well forecloses near-term diplomatic off-ramps from the U.S. side, while the collapse of the Pakistan-mediated Memorandum of Understanding removes the one existing framework for de-escalation. The Gulf states' pivot toward China as preferred mediator, reported by Geopolitics Prime citing Reuters, represents a tangible, accelerating erosion of U.S. political influence in a region Washington has anchored for decades. Domestically, the Ceuta migration crisis is generating acute pressure on the Spanish government, and Italy's Schengen threat signals EU internal cohesion is fraying. Pakistan's multi-front militant surge adds instability to the very state that had been Washington's back channel to Tehran, and the wider geopolitical consequences. Three trajectories warrant close monitoring over the next 7 to 14 days. First, watch whether Iran formalizes any coordination with Houthi forces on Bab el-Mandeb that would transform a regional energy crisis into a global one. Second, the rebar commentary on Poland is analytically significant. Russian propagandists openly testing NATO's tolerance for missile overflight normalizes incremental escalation and may foreshadow more aggressive strike profiles near Ukraine's western supply lines. Third, on the Ukraine front, the combination of Russia's Kostiantynivka infiltration, the Billy Kolodez encirclement, and the denied U.S. air defense missile request creates a compounding strategic disadvantage for Kyiv heading into winter. ISW and other trackers should be monitored for confirmation of Kostiantynivka's status. If that fortress city falls, Russian operational depth into Donetsk expands materially. Australia's AUKUS acceleration is a slower burn signal that U.S. allies globally are quietly hedging against Washington's strategic bandwidth. From the Hormuz choke point to the Donetsk front line, today's developments reflect a world where multiple crisis arcs are accelerating simultaneously. Stay with this channel for daily open-source intelligence briefings, and subscribe so you never miss a shift in the strategic picture. This brief is based on publicly available open-source information and is for educational and analytical purposes only.